Hi guys, it's Amber from The Sensible Mama. This is my weekly story time, I guess. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you've been here for a while, you know that I am pregnant. I'm in the second trimester. This is actually my 21st week, and it has just been amazing. We went through a miscarriage right before we had Roman, who was my firstborn, and then we had a chemical pregnancy after Roman, and that was pretty painful. So when we got pregnant this time, there was a lot of reluctance and hesitation, just a real reservation about letting ourselves get excited. And we know that we're not in the clear yet, but being at 21 weeks and knowing that things are going well, we're progressing normally, has just been awesome. I do have my anatomy scan this week on Wednesday, and I'm so excited about it, you know, just to go and see the baby again. It's been since week 8 that we've seen the baby, so I'm really excited about that. We're not going to be finding out the sex there at the appointment. I'm going to be doing a gender reveal, and of course, you guys know me, so I found a way to incorporate jujube into it, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully by the end of this week. If not by the end of this week, then it'll be early next week when that video is out. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is like what's different between the first and the second pregnancy. For me, like, I know everyone's experience is a little bit different, and there's lots of, you know, just funny satirical stuff out there on the web about what the first versus the second one is like. For me, there have been so many differences in this second pregnancy. Probably the most notable one for me has just been the level of confidence that I've had this time. For those of you who have been through a miscarriage, I'm so sorry that you're a part of this crappy club. If you haven't been through a miscarriage, there's this thing that happens to you mentally where you really start to wonder if your body is capable of carrying a baby to term. And when you do get pregnant and you make it through that first ultrasound and you hear a heartbeat and you realize like you made it through that first milestone, every day after that is just riddled with anxiety and fear. Like, is this going to be the day that I find out that we're not having this baby? And so my first pregnancy was so overwhelmingly negative. Just my mental state, I guess. I was so just anxious and afraid and almost depressed. I had just convinced myself that, like, we're not having this baby either, and I lived in that fear for the whole, well, I can't say the whole 9 months. By the time we were at like 38 weeks, I was pretty confident we were going to have the baby, but even then stuff happens, so I was just so fearful. And although that fear never really goes away, it's definitely been a lot better with this pregnancy. I now know that my body is capable of carrying a baby to full term, and because of that, I can just breathe a little bit. I've just been not as preoccupied with the pregnancy, not as focused on negative, you know, inner thoughts. I'm just more at peace with it, I guess. I think another part of taking away from that fear is just having a toddler. You know, when I was pregnant with Roman, it was like, you know, I had other things going on, but anytime I wasn't busy, that was just free time to spend worrying about how, like, everything could go wrong with the pregnancy, you know? And now I have just as much going on as I did when I was pregnant with Roman, plus I have a 16-month-old running around and getting into things, and I don't have the same amount of time to spend perseverating on fear. So Roman has been a real blessing in this pregnancy, just in terms of keeping my mind off of negative internal thoughts and just focusing on being in the moment every day with him. I guess the second thing that's different is that not only do I have more confidence in my body's ability to carry a baby, but I also have more confidence in my competence as a parent, and that is a huge, huge deal for me. You know, that first pregnancy, you spend it wondering, like, am I going to be a good mom? Am I going to be able to do this? What if the baby gets here and I don't like being a mom? What if I'm not ready to give up my life like this? You know, there's so many unknowns, and it's just hard to get your mind around how profoundly your life is going to change. And I think I had built that up really big in my head, like, life is gonna change so much, life as I know it is over, you know, everything is gonna be different now. And the truth is, there's a lot of things that are different, but there's actually a lot of things that are exactly the same. I still date my husband, I still go out and do things that I enjoy, I still run a business, I go shopping, I see friends, I hang out with my family, you know, and these are all things that I care about and I still do. So it's nice with the second pregnancy knowing that I know how to be a mom. I know how to balance mom life with Amber life and family life and married life. I've got that down. Well, I don't have it down, but I'm much better than I thought I'd be. And just knowing now that, like, whatever life throws at me, I'm gonna figure it out. And I think that that is such an important thing to know, like to really, really know when you're a mom. And I don't think that you get to know that until you go through your first few troubling experiences with your child. For me, it was having a bad sleeper. Roman was a terrible sleeper. And in fact, even at 16 months, he would still qualify as a poor sleeper. It's not uncommon for him to get up 2 or 3 times in a night still. And back when he was an infant, it was 8, 9, 10 times a night, like all the way up until he was a year old. And he also wouldn't nap during the day, and it was hard. And then we dealt with digestive issues. We just discovered that he's lactose intolerant, and that's been 16 months of us trying to figure out what the hell was going on with this kid. And you realize, though, as you confront these challenges, that you find a way to get through them. And you find the right resources to help you, whether it's friends or family or doctors or the internet. You find people who have the answers and they help you through it and you figure it out. And knowing that I can do that with the second baby, knowing before this baby is even born that, like, there's probably not much that can be thrown at me that I'm not going to be able to figure out. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it perfectly. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to freak out when it happens, but it's going to work itself out. I guess another thing that's different this time, and this one is a little sad, but one thing that I do have to think about now that I didn't have to think about when I was pregnant with Roman is actually how all of this is going to impact Roman. And you know, today, like, my parents are still living with us while their house is being built, and my mom and I were talking, and I was having a stressful morning with Sensible Mama stuff, and she was like, how are you going to do this when you have an infant and a toddler? And I just kind of said offhandedly, I was like, well, it's possible that I could put Roman in daycare for a few days a week. And then I just felt this, like, pain in my heart, thinking that, like, what kind of message am I sending to Roman that the new baby's here and now you get to spend less time with mommy? And I know that this is just part of life. This is what happens. He will adapt and he will be fine. But as a first-time second mom, like, not knowing how to make that transition and being there for your infant who needs you so much more, but still giving time and attention to a toddler who loves you and is attached to you and expects that quality time. And I know that that's all going to be okay. I know that I will find room in my heart for both children, but there's always that fear of, A, what if I get so involved with the new baby that I neglect my son? Or B, what if I almost, like, neglect the baby because I want to be with Roman so much? And what if I don't bond with the baby because I'm more interested in being around Roman? And, you know, as I talk to other moms, they're like, it just doesn't happen like that. That's not how it goes. You love both children. My friend Sam, who has a YouTube channel, she said something in one of her videos that was basically like, your love never divides, it always multiplies. So I'm really leaning into that truth and just trusting that when this new baby gets here, I'm going to figure it out. There's not going to be that feeling of loving one more than the other, but it's hard to conceive right now of loving anybody as much as I love Roman. There are a few things that are not different from your first pregnancy to the second one. The first one is the people who were positive and encouraging to you during your first pregnancy are still going to be positive and encouraging during your second. Those are going to be the people who are just there for you and want to know how your appointments are going, and they're just as invested in the second baby as they were with the first one, even though the second one tends to be less exciting. And by the same token, the people who were negative and discouraging during your first pregnancy, they're probably going to be the same during your second pregnancy. When I was pregnant with Roman and we were planning our home birth, we dealt with just negativity from all sides. It was just people coming out of the woodworks to tell us how, not just like, hey, did you know there are dangers involved with home birth and all that stuff, and you know, those people were open-minded. I could explain to them, like, look, I've been researching this since I decided I wanted to be a mother. You know, I would send them materials to read or to watch, and they would look at it with an open mind, and they would say, hey, you know what, now that I've seen all that, I trust that you've made a good decision and I support you. But there were always people who had never done home birth, who knew pretty much nothing about it, and insisted on telling me all the time, like, basically how I was gonna fail at it. And it was just astonishing to me. These were people that I thought cared about me, who wanted to see me happy. And you know, I can always understand a friend saying like, hey, I'm worried, do you have a backup plan? What do you do if there's an emergency? I was always patient with those questions, but there were just always people who seemed to like get some kind of joy out of making you feel like you were not going to succeed at your plan. For me anyway. You know, you get the comments like, oh yeah, well, good luck doing that home birth. You're gonna be asking for that epidural within minutes. You know, you get the people who talk about midwives like they have this horribly prejudiced, antiquated view of what a midwife is, and they say just horrible things about midwives, and you're like, are you serious? They work in hospitals now, like, come on. And those people find ways to be negative in your new pregnancy, no matter what they were negative about in your first one, whether it was your birth plan or your plan to breastfeed or the names you were picking or your plan about going back to work or not going back to work, whatever. Like, those people are going to find ways to be negative and discouraging in your second pregnancy. And you know, that's a bummer, but what you do start to learn in your second pregnancy is how to just kind of still love those people and love on those people, but keep them out of the loop, I guess, regarding your plan for this new baby. You just kind of don't go there with them because you don't want to deal. Whereas in the first pregnancy, I know I really let those people get in my head, and now I'm just like, you don't belong here if you can't be positive and encouraging to me. That's not to say that you shouldn't accept advice from people. There's always people who want to give advice, and some advice is good, but ignorant advice, or the advice that comes from someone who just kind of seems to get some kind of sick pleasure out of imagining that you're not going to be successful in whatever you're trying to do, like, don't got time for that. The other things that are the same is, of course, you know, every milestone in the second pregnancy is just as exciting as the first one. The first kick that you feel, you know, the first moment that you realize you've landed on the right name. It's an awesome journey, and I'm so blessed and happy to be on it. I thank you guys for being a part of it and for letting me update you and for being able to talk to you about this stuff. Thanks for tuning in every week. I guess if you're not subscribed, go ahead and make sure that you're subscribed so that you can catch the gender reveal if you want to see that. And I guess I will see you on Wednesday for 5 Ways Wednesday. Love you guys. Bye-bye.